Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, have great holidays. We are going to sign some very important things today. One is a continuing resolution that very importantly gives us the right, and we are ordering $4 billion worth of missile defense equipment and missiles themselves. Very important, top of the line, best in the world. We make the best military product in the world. Nobody is even close. So we're ordering $4 billion worth of missile defense, and that will be done by signing right here and also by notifying the Speaker of the House and President of the Senate designating the missile defense as emergency defense fund. So it's $4 billion for that and $700 million for various other military forms of equipment. And I'm very honored to be doing that. Our military has been doing a fantastic job in so many ways with ISIS, and everything they're touching lately has been working out. So we're signing that. This is the letter to Mitch McConnell and separately to Paul Ryan, authorizing that having to do with missile defense. Okay. Very important. So that's being done today, and that's going to be sent out. And then when I watched the news, as you know, we had the largest tax cuts in our history just approved. And I was going to wait for a formal signing sometime in early January, but then I watched the news this morning, and they were all saying, will he keep his promise? Will he sign it by Christmas? You were one. But will he sign it by Christmas? And I called downstairs. I said, get it ready. We have to sign it now. We were going to wait till January 7th or 8th and do a big formal ceremony. But every one of the networks was saying, will he keep his promise? Will he sign it for Christmas, before Christmas? And so I immediately called. I said, let's get it ready. As you know, $3.2 trillion in tax cuts for American families, including the doubling of the standard deduction and the doubling of the child tax credit. The typical family of four earning $75,000, we see an income tax cut of more than $2,000. Many much higher than that, slashing their tax bill in half. And they're going to start to see that because we're signing today. They're going to start to see that in February. The numbers will speak. One of the big things that happened, you have some great companies. I want to thank AT&T, who actually was the first out of the box, and Boeing and Sinclair and Wells Fargo and Comcast, even though they own NBC, which is not so nice to the presidency or the president. But Comcast also, they all have made tremendous contributions to their employees and tremendous contributions to spending money in this country because of the tax bill. And they all said it, it's because of the tax bill. So they're making tremendous investments. That means jobs, it means a lot of things, and we're very happy. So that's AT&T, Boeing, Sinclair, Wells Fargo, Comcast, and now many other companies, as you see. In fact, just this morning, I see 3 more companies came on. A friend of mine, Bob Kraft, called me last night. He said, this tax bill is incredible. He owns the New England Patriots, but he's in the paper business too. And he said, based on this tax bill, he just wanted to let me know that he's going to buy a big plant in the great state of North Carolina, and he's going to build a tremendous paper mill there, or paper products plant. And I've had many calls such as that, where people that are entrepreneurs, people in business, they're going out and they're going to buy, frankly, factories that are closed, abandoned, and now they're not going to be abandoned any longer. This is having an even bigger impact, faster than I thought. The corporate tax rate, as you know, will be lowered from 35 to 21% That means that more products will be made in the USA. A lot of things are going to be happening in the USA. We're going to bring back our companies that they've already started coming back. I think they had certain confidence in me. They figured we were going to get this done, but they have already started. Something very important to me, the family farmers and small business owners who lost their business because of the estate tax, most of them won't have any estate tax to pay. It will be a great thing for their families. You can leave your farm to your family. You can leave your business, your small business, to your family, not even so small, because the numbers are pretty big here. So they'll be exempt from having to pay estate tax, which will be tremendous. They'll keep their farms and their businesses in the family. Businesses will be able to deduct 100% of the cost of their capital investments in the year the investment is made. That's called expensing. And to do 1 year expensing, I think, is going to be one of the biggest things in the bill, frankly. I think people are going to go out and absolutely go wild over expensing. Bob Kraft mentioned that last night in his telephone call. The fact that they can do 1 year expensing is a fantastic asset. Historic small business tax cuts and pass-throughs now are made really, really good for the business owner. They're hiring people. I see it on television. I'm reading about it all over, where people are hiring a lot of people right now to go to work. The small business tax cut and the pass-throughs are now really incentivizing people. We're going to bring back probably $4 trillion from overseas. Nobody knows the exact number, but it's massive. It'll be over $3 trillion. It could be $5 trillion, but it's a tremendous amount of money that was caught overseas that the bureaucracy plus the tax laws didn't allow it to reasonably be brought back into our country. So we think at least $4 trillion is going to be brought back. And if you look at that, it's going to be brought back right under the code. This is something that Republicans wanted for years and Democrats wanted for years, and yet it never got done. Who would object to trillions of dollars being brought back into our country? Nobody. But it never got done. Now it's being done. And the bottom line is, this is the biggest tax cuts and reform in the history of our country. This is bigger than actually President Reagan's many years ago. I'm very honored by it. In addition, we have ANWR. We're opening up ANWR for drilling. They've tried to get that for 40 years. They've tried to get that even during the Reagan administration. They could never get it. That alone would be a big bill if that ever happened, but that's even part of this. And we have, of course, the individual mandate, which is a very unfair and very unpopular provision, as you know, in Obamacare. Essentially, I think it ultimately leads to the end of Obamacare. It's essentially, I think Obamacare is over because of that, and we're going to come up with something that's really going to be very good. But the individual mandate was very unfair because you're basically saying pay for something in order not to have to get health care. So you're paying not to have health care. It was very unfair. Many people thought it should have been overturned in the Supreme Court. Didn't quite make it, almost, but didn't quite make it. But now we're overturning the individual mandate, most unpopular thing in Obamacare. Very, very unfair. So this is the bill right here, and we're very proud of it. It's going to be a tremendous thing for the American people. It's going to be fantastic for the economy. It's going to keep companies from leaving our shores and opening up in other countries. They are very disincentivized to do that. There's not a lot of sense to do that. You do that, and I don't think you're going to be running your company very well. So what's happening is we're going to sign this. This is a little picture of it. It fits nicely in the box. I said take it out of the box because people have to see. And all of this, everything in here, is really tremendous things for businesses, for people, for the middle class, for workers. And I consider this very much a bill for the middle class and a bill for jobs. And jobs are produced through companies and corporations, and you see that happening. Corporations are literally going wild over this. I think even beyond my expectations, so far beyond my expectations. So I'll sign this today rather than having a very big formal ceremony in 2 weeks when we were going to do it, because I didn't want you folks to say that I wasn't keeping my promise. I am keeping my promise. I'm signing it before Christmas. I said that the bill would be on my desk before Christmas, and you are holding me literally to that. So we did a rush job today. It's not fancy, but it's the Oval Office. It's the great Oval Office. And just to conclude, our country is doing very well. We've tremendously cut regulations. Legislative approvals, for which I'm given no credit in the mainstream media. We have, I believe it's 88, which is number one in the history of our country. Second now is Harry Truman. Harry Truman had more legislative approvals than any other president, and a record long held. And we beat him on legislative approvals, for which I get no credit. A lot of people say he needed this because he has had no legislative approvals. Well, if you look at VA Accountability Act and so many other bills having to do with the VA, having to do with the military, having to do with many things, we have more legislative victories than any other president, not including this, but this is the capper, because this is, again, the biggest tax cut, biggest reform of all time. So it's an honor to have you with us, and we will sign this right now. This is something I'm very proud of. Great for our country, great for the American people. Thank you all. So we won't do the whole thing, but this is basically what it is. That's your bill. And I want to thank some people in particular that aren't here, because, again, we expected a formal ceremony in 2 weeks. But Mitch McConnell has been fantastic. Worked so hard. We would speak at 3 in the morning and 2 in the morning, and we would speak whenever we had to speak. But he worked so hard. And the exact same thing can be said for Paul Ryan. They are very proud of this, and we're already seeing the results. And as I said, long ahead of schedule. Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, thank you very much. Orrin Hatch, the chairman, made a beautiful speech the other day in front of the White House. An absolutely brilliant, beautiful speech, and we appreciated it, and I appreciated it. Hard-working. Kevin Brady, I don't think he slept for months. It's almost like that's all he did was this. Mike Enzi, Senator Enzi. Diane Black, Rob Portman, a group of Rob Portman. Rob worked so hard, so knowledgeable on the subject. Pat Toomey, likewise. Tim Scott, likewise. John Thune, likewise. These people work so hard, and I don't know if they're given the proper credit. And the whole Senate, when I say the Senate, unfortunately, the Republicans in the Senate. Democrats don't like tax cuts. They want to raise your taxes. They don't want to lower your taxes. They want to raise your taxes, and they want to spend money foolishly on things that we don't need in many cases. So we're cutting taxes, we're taking care of our military, and we're taking care of people. And we're really doing a job on jobs. So these folks have been so fantastic that I had to call them out. And plenty of others, believe me, Republicans in the House and Republicans in the Senate have been incredible. So this is what we got. We had it. It was all set to go. As soon as I got back from Christmas, where we'll be working in Florida, I'll be working very hard during that Christmas, because we have many things we're talking about, including North Korea, including a lot of things happening in the Middle East, as you know. We've made tremendous strides, obviously, in Syria with ISIS. We've taken back virtually all of the caliphate, all of the land. Same thing in Iraq, and we're making tremendous strides. It's sort of the unwritten story right now, but since my speech on Afghanistan, we're making tremendous progress, tremendous strides. We've opened it up, and it's a whole different world in Afghanistan, I can tell you that. So I'll be working very hard over the holidays. Again, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas. I have some beautiful pens over here, and because all of these folks are either continuing to work down the road or getting ready to leave, and I'm sure they'll be working very hard also, I think I'm probably going to hand some of them to the press. Does the media, would any of the media like any of, oh, look at these camera guys. But I think we'll do that. So we have them Many of you have worked very hard. Many of you have worked very, very fairly, and we really appreciate that. So here you go, folks. You want the box with it or not, huh?
Mr. President, can you talk a little bit about how much you'll travel to sell this tax
I don't think I'm going to have to travel too much to sell it. I think it's selling itself. It's becoming very popular. But I think you'll see something on February 1st when they open up the paycheck. That's when you're going to start to see it, because by signing it now, it kicks in for this year. Remember, if we didn't make a certain date, it wouldn't kick in until next year, meaning the following year, 19, and I wasn't happy with that. So we worked very, very hard to make sure it was this year. Even language originally said the corporate would kick in 19, but we didn't do that. We have it kick in now, but we had to sign. So I don't think we're going to have to do much selling. I think the corporations that are giving billions and billions of dollars away to their workers, and many more are coming, I think that's really what's selling this, maybe better than anybody could, including myself. But I think come February, when they open their checks and they see, wow, what happened? I have a lot more money in here. I think that's really going to be something very special. So have a great holiday, folks. Some of you folks take, I in particular like the boom holders. They were so nice to me the other day, right? And the cameramen.
Mr. President,
and the camera.
Mr. President, as you mentioned, no Democrats have supported this tax cut legislation. Will they regret it?
I think the Democrats will really regret. The Democrats already regret it. They have their typical thing, it's for the rich. They know that's not true. And they've been called out on it by the media, actually. But the Democrats very much regret it. They wanted to be a part of it, just doesn't work out. But I really do believe, and I said on social media today, I really do believe we're going to have a lot of bipartisan work done. And maybe we start with infrastructure, because I really believe infrastructure can be bipartisan. We've spent $7 trillion in the Middle East, not to mention all of the lives and all of the heartache, and it's so sad. $7 trillion. It's time for us to rebuild our country. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, Mr. President, as a legal immigrant, President,
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Everyone, it is time to go. It is time to go, Jeff. It is time to go.
do you wish you would have started with infrastructure at the beginning of this year? Would that have sort of set the tone differently?
Well, we're going to get infrastructure. Infrastructure is the easiest of all. We're very well on our way. We've essentially repealed Obamacare. The individual mandate is a very big factor in this bill, frankly. A lot of people don't talk about it because the tax cut is so important. But infrastructure is by far the easiest. People want it, Republicans and Democrats. We're going to have tremendous Democrat support on infrastructure, as you know. I could have started with infrastructure. I actually wanted to save the easy one for the one down the road. So we'll be having that done pretty quickly. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
It's time to go. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Did you learn anything in this process that you think will help you in 2018?
Thank you, Jeff. It's time to go.
Did you learn anything in this process that you think will help you in 2018?
One thing I really learned is I learned and got to know and became very friendly with the people in the House, the people in the Senate, both Republicans and Democrats. When I came, I didn't know too many. I was very politically active, but I didn't know too many. I think the fact that I've become friends with so many of the names that I just read off and so many of the senators, so many of the congressmen and women, I think that's a huge factor. I can call anybody now. I know every one of them very well. And I understand the legislation very well. So, it's been a process. It's been a great process, really beautiful. But I do believe that the fact that I have gotten to know so many of these people, and many of these people, I have to say, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying many of these people are great people that truly love this country. So I think that helps. And I think you'll see that in this legislation.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Victory. And thanks to the leadership of this commander-in-chief and the courage of our armed forces, ISIS is on the run, their capital has fallen, and their so-called caliphate has crumbled across Syria and Iraq. But what brings us here today is that President Trump also knows that American strength starts with a growing American economy. And from the first day of this administration, this president championed free and fair trade. He rolled back federal red tape at record levels. We've unleashed American energy, and today, Mr. President, you fulfilled the promise you made to millions of Americans struggling in this economy to cut taxes across the board for working families and businesses large and small. In August of this year, the President laid out his vision for a tax cut that would be a middle-class miracle, and that's exactly what the Congress passed today. This tax cut will put more money in the pockets of the American people. It'll make our tax code more simple, more fair, more easy to understand. It'll make businesses across America more competitive to create good-paying jobs and raise wages for working Americans. I can tell you I serve with him every day. President Donald Trump is a man of his word. He's a man of action. And with the strong support of these members of Congress, President Donald Trump delivered a great victory for the American people. We made history today. But as the President said when we gathered this morning, a few of us with a few less hours sleep than usual, we're just getting started. And I can assure you, this President and this entire administration will not rest and relent until the forgotten men and women of America are forgotten no more. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your love for this country and the people of this country. And I know in my heart, with the strong continued support of the members of Congress who are gathered on these steps, and with God's help, you will make America great again.
Thank you, Mike, very much. A friend of mine, a very, very special man, Tim Scott. Tim, I'd like you to say a few words. He came in and he would solve some problems that we weren't looking too good a couple of times, and Tim was really, really a tremendous help. Thank you, Tim.
Well, Mr. President, during one of those conversations that we had, we talked about ways to improve distressed communities throughout this country. 52 million Americans living in distressed communities, and we talked about legislation that could move those communities forward. And you said yes. And as a part of this tax reform package, the Investing in Opportunity Act has been included, which will bring trillions of dollars into poor communities because of your willingness to listen.
Thank you.
The president said I only have about 45 more minutes, so I'm going to get to my... Oh. He didn't say that. Okay, got it. Let me just say to those Americans who are watching this process, this is not about Washington. It's not about the left. It's not about the right. It's about single-parent moms who are looking for a reason to be hopeful in 2018. This tax reform plan delivers for the average single mother a 70% tax cut. For the average family who's working paycheck to paycheck, looking for ways to be hopeful about their future, to have an extra night for dinner out at a restaurant. This tax reform package cuts their taxes by nearly 60%. And because of folks like Marco Rubio and Ivanka, when you think about the folks with kids in the household, this plan doubles the child tax credit and makes about 70% of it refundable. This is a plan that we can be proud of because it speaks to the hearts of everyday Americans.
Diane, come on up. Diane Black. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank all of the folks that are standing behind me because it has been a team effort. When we talk about doing tax reform and the Tax Reform and Jobs Cuts Act, That is what the American people are going to benefit by. And as Tim has just said, it is the average American. That's the reason why we did this tax reform. We looked at those right in the middle, those families that need the assistance and the help and the relief to be able to live their lives the way we have promised with the American dream. It is such an honor to stand here with the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, who have been an integral part in making sure that this happened. I want to thank Kevin Brady, who I know hours and hours and hours worked hard to make this happen in what was really a short period of time. And some of the folks that are being left out right now, and I know we've thanked them before, but I want to thank them publicly, and that is all of the staff that has worked so hard in both the House and the Senate to make this happen. Now, we can say Merry Christmas to the American people because we are giving them a huge gift for Christmas. A break in these taxes and an opportunity for our jobs to grow and to give them a bigger paycheck. And so I want to say thank you to Mr. President. Thank you, President Trump, for allowing us to have you as our president and to make America great again.
Thank you, Diane, very much. And we can say Merry Christmas again. People are saying Merry Christmas again, and we like the sound. I want to ask Lisa Murkowski and Dan Sullivan to come up from Alaska. They've been really working. And if Don Young is here, and I think he's around here, the three of them, come here.
Dan and Don's great.
Come here. Dan, get over here, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Lisa?
You get right here.
Thank you.
You'll get my name right.
Oh, I did. I did, actually. I called it.
Mr. President, I don't know if you've recognized, this is a very historic day, of course, but it's also the beginning of winter solstice. Now, it doesn't feel like it right now, but the winter solstice is the shortest day, the darkest day. And for us in Alaska, we've had some pretty dark days recently. But with passage of this tax bill, with passage finally, almost 40 years later, to allow us to open up the 1002 area, this is a bright day for Alaska. This is a bright day for America.
All right.
Woo! So we thank you for that. We thank you for that. Think about it. 31 years we've been working on tax reform. 38 years now to open up ANWR. This has been a multi-generational fight. And I looked at some of our friends from Alaska who have come 5,000 miles to be here for the vote last night and today.
Yeah.
To those who live there, to those who raise their families there, and to those who are looking to live for generations, know that our promise to you today is a bright future, one where we care for our environment, where we care for our people, and we also care for our country in providing a resource that is needed not only by the United States, by Alaskans, but by our friends and allies. This, Mr. President, is what energy dominance is all about. So let's go.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, I want to thank you and your administration. I want to thank Secretary Zinke, who's doing a great job. But Senator Murkowski said it very well. This administration has come in and recognized this incredible resource that we have in our nation. Developing our energy is good for jobs. It's good for energy security. It's good for manufacturing. It's good for the environment because we have the highest standards in the world. And it's very, very good for our foreign policy and national security. Mr. President, sir, you released your national security strategy just a couple days ago. And in there, you talk about the economy, which is what this tax bill is all about, but you also talk about energy dominance. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of all Alaskans and the American people because it's the right policy, and we're finally doing it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank all these guys standing behind me these ladies, the people that helped me do this. This is 37 years I try to get this passed. It proves one thing: perseverance overcomes intelligence any day of the year. But I want to thank the President. I want to thank you, Mr. President, and my two senators. This is a team that can't be beat. We'll do what's right for Alaska. This bill does what's right for this nation, and the great land will be great again. Thank you, Mr. President.
He's a pretty popular guy, huh? It's pretty good. I want to ask Orrin Hatch, a special friend of mine, I can tell you that, somebody that spoke really well of me when it wasn't exactly the easiest thing to do. He was just always in there, always fighting for all of us, and did a fantastic job as chairman. Orrin, say a few words, please.
Mr. President, I have to say that you're living up to everything I thought you would. You're one heck of a leader, and we're all benefiting from it. This bill could not have passed without you, couldn't have passed without the Alaskan delegation, couldn't have passed without the leadership in the House and the Senate, Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, and the other leaders as well. All I can say is that we're making headway. This is just the beginning. You stop and think about it, this president hasn't even been in office for a year. And look at all the things that he's been able to get done by sheer will in many ways. And I just hope that we all get behind him every way we can, and we'll get this country turned around in ways that will benefit the whole world. But above all, benefit our people and bring us all to a realization of how really great America really is and how the rest of the world depends on us. I love this country. I came from very humble roots, and I have to say that this is one of the great privileges of my life, to stand here on the White House lawn with the President of the United States, who I love and appreciate so much, and with these wonderful colleagues and cabinet members who stand behind us. And to see all of you and realize that you care too. All I can say is that God loves this country. We all know it. We wouldn't be where we are without him. And we love all of you. And we're going to keep fighting, and we're going to make this the greatest presidency that we've seen, not only in generations, but maybe ever. God bless all of you.
Thank you. Paul Ryan just said, "How good was that?" Another very special man, works so hard, knows it inside out and backwards, Kevin Brady.
Thank you. Okay, guys. We're getting a little Thank you, Mr. President. This is a historic day. It's an exciting day. And I knew I was going to be here with you to mark this momentous occasion. So I wore my Houston Astros tie because they're still the champion of the World Series. I figured today you would give me some slack on that. Look, this is a historic day in so many ways, and it didn't happen just by itself. People often ask, when did you know? Or when did you know tax reform could be achieved in America for the first time in 31 years? And my answer is always the same. November 8th, when President Trump, you were elected President of the United States. That's when I knew it was real. And when you put together the great ideas on tax reform from inside and outside Congress, and I see many of you here today with us, remarkable leadership and courage from the men and women behind me in the Senate, and especially my colleagues in the House. When you put together remarkable leadership in the House and the Senate, the work that was done in the White House, Gary and Steve, Vice President Pence, and Mr. President, your willingness to make this your commitment, to go across the country to sell the need for tax reform, and then stay at the table with us and on the phone with us to get this done. But for your leadership, we would not be here today. So thank you so much. And let me finish by speaking directly to the American people. There are 3 dates you need to put on your calendar. The first is New Year's Day, because on New Year's, our country will have a new tax code for a new era of American prosperity. New Year's Day. In February, look to your paychecks. Hardworking Americans will see the result of the hard work of this president and this Congress to make this tax reform possible. It will show in your paychecks. And then April 15th, that hated day. This April 15th will be the last time you ever file your taxes under this horrible, broken tax code, because you'll have a new one for the future of your family and your small business. So this is a great day for our country, a great day for our economy, and a great day for America. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Did a fantastic job. And another man who was with us all the way, no matter when I called, he was there or he'd get back within minutes, Kevin McCarthy.
To the President and Vice President, during that campaign, you listened to voices no one else was listening to. You listened to those that were trying to get a pay raise, or that parent that was fighting for their children, or to that person who always dreamed of being an entrepreneur or creating a small business like you did, Mr. President. And you know what? For all those people, you heard them. We would not be standing here today if it wasn't for you. It doesn't matter if you were overseas fighting for America. So many people back here got your phone call fighting for tax reform. This is a big day for America. This is America's comeback. Come February, check your check, because that will be the pay raise of the vote for Donald Trump. That will be the beginning of the next century, America's century. Thank you and God bless.
So I just want to conclude by saying this will indeed be a very big day when people look back at our country. It's a whole different attitude, a whole different way. And I really want to end by looking back and thanking all of those people standing behind me that worked for years. This was the culmination of a few months' work, but they've been working on getting this done, whether it's Mitch or Paul or Kevin or Orrin. They have been working on this for years, years and years. And I just want to turn around and I want to thank them all. They are very, very special people. Thank you very much, everybody.